Hello and welcome everyone to the May 11th special board meeting. Kinsey, can you call the roll?
Becker,
Here.
McCoy,
Here.
Lyerly,
Excused.
Minnow,
Here.
Knell,
Here.
Meister,
Here.
Yang.
Here. All right. We have a few action items before us related to staffing. So Laura, would you mind reading the first motion?
Sure. I move that the employment of staff as presented be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open.
I'll voice this one.
Okay, do you want to let
Yes.
Becker?
Aye.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
All right, then item 2B on transfer of staff. Laura?
I move that the transfer of staff as presented be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open.
I'll voice these ones. Aye.
Andrew, do you want to vote?
Yeah, I'm actually in it now, but not getting it. But, aye.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
All right, then item 2C, retirement of staff. Laura?
I move that the retirement of staff as presented be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? No? All right, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open.
Aye.
Aye.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
All right, and item 2D. Laura?
I move that the resignation of staff as presented be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open.
I'll vote aye.
Aye.
All votes have been entered and the motion has carried. The results of the individual board member votes are as follows. Becker, yes. McCoy, yes. Minnow abstained. Cannell, yes. Meister, yes. Yang, yes.
All right, that is the conclusion of our special board meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. We will be transitioning directly into the board work session for May 11th. And Kinsey, would you call the roll? Yep.
Yeah, it's not. Okay. Work session. There we go.
Yang,
Here.
Meister,
Here.
Knell,
Here.
Minnow,
Here.
Lyerly,
Excused.
McCoy,
Here.
Becker.
Here.
All right, we are also joined at the table tonight by one of our ICSC representatives. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Paige. I'm a junior at Preble.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Paige, and please feel free to participate however you're able. Thanks for being here. All right, first we will go into our public forum. Just a reminder that any of the speakers at public forum tonight, you will have 5 minutes to speak. Again, this is just an opportunity for the board members to listen to your comments. We are not going to engage in any back and forth conversation with you, and we are not able to comment on anything that's not agenda'd for the evening. So if we need to follow up with you afterwards, we absolutely will do so. First up, we have Ryan Rizziconi. And just a reminder, as you come to the podium, please state your name and your address.
Ryan Rizziconi, president of Aspiro. Our address is at Tank Elementary right now, as a matter of fact. For those of you who don't know, we've been renting Tank Elementary for the past 10 months. It has been fantastic, and we are so appreciative of it. And I can't thank the district enough, the board, Superintendent Bayer, Kale, for all the hard work that they've put in making this happen these past 10 months. And since we're winding down our time, looks like we'll probably be out of there at the end of July. I'm here on behalf of our staff, our board of directors, and obviously our wonderful clients to say thank you. And so we have a little gift for the board to show our appreciation.
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. Or do you want back around here?
You want the whole board?
Yep. Okay. What makes best sense?
Why don't you shuffle down this way?
Shuffle this way, get paired to stand.
And do all the combined public here next to me. There you go. Here, you come in, Samantha, and you tuck in there.
There we go. There we go.
All right, Alex, let's have you come on the other side of this. Oh, perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Jonathan Lair.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Lear, address 1799 Aspen Lane, Green Bay. I'm the dad of Mason Lear, and last night I served the board with an unredacted receipt of instructional fraud, admitted corporal punishment. This morning, the district responded not with a safety plan, but with a 5-person swarm and law enforcement to remove me while I was monitoring my son's life safety. It was a tragedy that in that building full of educators, the only person I could trust in that morning was the police officer that was called there to remove me. He noted I was a reasonable guy, yet the district utilized force to end the safety mitigation. The district is in medical and transparency default. Mason is currently at home in safe harbor because these unmitigated risks. I am here to ensure that you see the receipts before your vote tonight. Do not reward abuse and fraud with a renewal contract. Mason is ready to come back to school, and as soon as it's safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lair. Next up, we have Steve Comp.
Steve Comp, 2543 New Jake Drive, New Franken, Wisconsin, 54229. I'm here to advocate for two people. One, my son Elliot, he's a sophomore at Preble High School. He is in the basketball program. And the other is Coach Rzinski. He's done a wonderful job the last few years, educating the players on how to be better men. And, as a father, there's limits to what I can do. There's other influences in life. And Coach Bookmeyer on the football side and Coach Rosinski on the basketball side, my son has two amazing people that are role models for him to be a better man. And for some reason, we elected to allow a few rogue parents that were disgruntled about how Coach Rosinski was handling the basketball program, force him to make an emotional decision and resign. Folks in this room were part of that meeting, and I would advocate for the board to examine how things were handled. You have a Hall of Fame coach that does nothing but advocate for the players, the students of the school, and we're forcing him out because of a handful of disgruntled parents. The board needs to examine this. The board needs to hold the people in the administration who handled this accountable. Now, I'm hearing that the board may not be able to bring coach back. That might be out of their purview. But you can hold the people in this room and the people in the administration accountable for the decisions that they made in forcing Coach Rosinski to leave. My son is at a disadvantage tomorrow because Coach Rosinski is not the basketball coach. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kump. Jim Hayes.
Thank you for your time. Again, my name is Jim Hayes. I live 4437 Heritage Heights in De Pere. I've been a varsity assistant basketball coach in Green Bay for 23 years. All 23 years with Rick Rosinski, who is everything that's good about high school sports. The people who have been harassing him for the last 2 years are what's disgusting and what's terrible about high school sports. By basically forcing Rick to resign, you rewarded the actions of these rogue parents and took away something that Rick lives for. I've known Rick since he's 13 years old. He's a great person. He's a great father. He's a great coach. And more than anything else, he's a great mentor and role model to the boys at Pueblo High School. And before that, to the boys at East High School. It literally makes me ill that Rick is being forced to give up his job. We have had so many friends of ours, former players, former parents, that have sent letters to the school board and to the school district in support of Rick. Again, Rick has coached in this district as a head varsity coach for 23 years. And this is how he's being thanked, by being forced out by a group of parents who are vengeful, and I want to even see hateful toward him. They've harassed him for 2 years. And our athletic director was well aware of this. It really did nothing to support him. The last 2 months have been hell on Rick Rosinski. He has hardly been able to sleep, hardly been able to eat. And this is the result of this. These parents acting this way. And now they're being rewarded. They're being rewarded by their terrible conduct toward him. And all we ever wanted to do is coach basketball. Rick is what's good in high school sports. These very few parents are the example of what's bad in high school athletics and athletics in general. Again, I want to thank you for your time, for hearing me, and please, if you can do anything in your power to reinstate Rick, I want to say our players love him. Our parents respect him and care about him. And again, to take away his job when he did nothing to deserve this by any means, would be a grave travesty and a really a stain on athletics in this school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Next up, we have Matthew Dornbush.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. So Matt Dornbush, 3027 Warm Springs Drive, Green Bay. I've got 3 kids, all in public school. Dedicated my life to public education. I'm here representing myself, but I'm also the dean of the business school at UW Green Bay. And I think a lot about higher education, the role, of public education. I've sent my kids to public education because I believe that is the pathway to a better future for our communities. That's how you meet your neighbors. That's how you meet neighbors that are different from you, right? And it's how you find opportunity to advance. My daughter had a wonderful experience at Preble. She's at Purdue University, just finished up her 2nd year of electrical engineering. Wonderful experience. My son's a junior. He's a multiple sport athlete, just like my daughter was. Also AP student, all that sort of stuff. And I've got a 7th grader in junior high at Edison. The thing I think about, I spend more time than anything thinking about with our young people and preparing them for the future is what does it take to educate a young person today? What you learn in the classroom is fundamental, it's foundational, but it's not enough. Every single meeting I have with the external community, business leaders, durable skills, durable skills, durable skills. Where do students most learn those durable skills? It's in the extracurricular and the co-curricular activities that our students embark in. For my daughter, it was cross country and track and DECA. And every one of those experiences was driven by a teacher who gives far more than what they're compensated to provide those experiences, right? That's where students learn how to lose. It's where they learn how to win. It's where they learn how to build connections with their teammates. It's where they learn how to work hard, how to speak up for themselves, to find their voice, right? And none of that happens if we don't have dedicated educators, right? Like Coach Rosinski leading the way. And I think while I'm incredibly upset about this situation, as is my son, who's a varsity basketball player, I think it's also a significant risk for the district to think about what it looks like to our community when there's no show of support or backing for these sorts of individuals. It sends a very, very negative message to the community, right? These are the people we need to step up, and we need these people to know that the district has their back if mistakes are made. I understand the complexities and the challenges with personnel matters. I get it. But I also know there are other pathways to find solutions, improvement plans, right? Things like that, where we can work with to support those people. Because every single one of us has made mistakes in our lives. I don't know the details of what happened here. But I do know that if Rick is removed from this position, it's a really great loss for our students, for Preble High School, and I really believe for the district, particularly in the way it's perceived by this community. So please consider this. Consider what choice we've made to get to this point, and any way that you can support us moving forward would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dornbush. Next up, we have Dave Schultz. No? Okay. That is the end of our public forum, folks that have registered. If anyone else wants to speak, anyone else here want to speak? No? All right. Thank you. Then we will move into our section on strategic planning, and we will invite David Johns to the table, and I believe Dr. Eric Kahn as well to give us some updates related to our strategic plan.
Good evening, board, student leaders. We've also asked Career and Technical Education Coordinator Adam Treble to come to the board table with us. Sitting next to me are two absolute experts in the field. Dr. Khan has prepared a thorough video that I hope you had an opportunity to see. To those watching and participating, that's available on our YouTube channel. We also have the slides available on the screens here if your questions and the conversation warrants us going to some different representations that are there. I'd like to just kick off and introduce this really important strategic planning update with the timing of these goals, as well as the greater fit within our larger efforts as a school district. When we talk about post-secondary credit attainment and we talk about industry credentials, we're really reaching the culmination of the experience that we provide our students through our system. At this table throughout the last school year, we've talked about things like early childhood literacy, attendance, sense of belonging. All of those things are contributors, and all of those things, in my opinion, really tie together through the two goals that we'll be looking at today. There's one more aspect to the goals that we'll be looking at today, and this came through the board sharing values and priorities that when we say our kids are winning, we mean all of our kids are winning. And so we've also noted and shared data with you across various disaggregated student groups, because our commitment when we say we are seeking to deliver on our portrait of a graduate and our vision is that we're to do that for all students. And so this work begins the very first day a child begins in our system and continues all the way through that when they walk across the stage, proudly carrying, you know, a couple or a handful of post-secondary credits along with them, and ideally some industry credentials as well. So as we focus in on what is true and real for 17 and 18-year-olds in our district, we're well aware that this is a large journey for our students and for our staff to deliver on this. So I'll turn it over to the board for questions, comments, thoughts, or anything else you would like these gentlemen to share or discuss, or anything that you have to discuss with each other regarding these two goal areas.
Thank you, David. Any questions or discussion?
Well, I would just like to have a little clarification on the IB program. And I had gone to their open house presentation several months ago, and they were talking about IB credits not being allowed to be used at the university level. And I just, and in the presentation, it did mention that some IB credits can be allowed. Can you explain that easily, or is this something that I should sit down with you for 2 hours?
Well, maybe not 2 hours, but it all depends on the college or university and how they accept the credits. The same is true for AP. Not every college or university accepts advanced placement credits either. So our local college partners, both UWGB and NWTC, do accept IB credits. Other institutions in the state do as well, but it's not something you can say holistically when you talk about every college across the country.
Alex?
My questions are, the first part is, how do we make sure that all of these different programs are, worthwhile, for our students, that they're, like kind of that example right there. Like, we know that they're going through a program that is going to be of use to them in the next phases of their life. Like, it has a long-term purpose. And also that it's engaging enough students to make sure that our enrollment of those programs, and that program is doing whatever it needs to make sure that there's more than 3 kids graduating from this or that program each year, or with this or that certification. And when I think of, City Automotive and Bay Link and all those kinds of things, just to name a couple, making sure that those are healthy and they have enough people or kids that are accessing and graduating from those programs with these, different certifications. And kind of tied with that, how do we make sure, we have the teacher and instructor availability and I guess qualified people willing to also run those programs, And as a board, how do we make sure that it's financially viable to do that? So I know it's kind of a loaded question, but I know it kind of all goes together too.
So I can start as far as the question about the value of the programs we offer or any of the offerings we have. There's two different components of that, one of which is ensuring that we have the alignment between whatever programs we offer and those post-secondary goals. So our courses that we have that have college credits attached to them, we've worked with our college partners to, as best we can, ensure that there's a seamless transition for students who are then seeking a program at the technical college or a major at a four-year university. So that there's revisions and alignment that happen. It's an ongoing process. The same when it comes to the credentials. We work with our business and industry partners to hear from them what is valuable. There's also some guidance that's provided by the state based on the state's work with their business and industry partners as well to determine which certifications are in demand, both for high need careers, but also ones that are of high value in a career area, particularly. As far as engaging enough students, that is the other half of the component. You can have the programs in place, you can have the opportunities, ensuring the students are getting into those programs. So in the recording, one of the things I did talk about was the advising practices for students and working with them on what their post-secondary goals are, whether it's specifically a career or an area of interest, and the opportunities we have in the district to get there. When you talk about capstone programs, those are intentionally smaller, more focused, more time-intensive requirements for our students. So the enrollment numbers in those are smaller. In some cases, there's caps on them for safety reasons. But we do promote those programs to students in order to ensure they are aware of the opportunities they have. City Stadium being a perfect example, it requires a 2-year commitment with pretty much half of a student's stay, both of those years, to earn that technical diploma. So it's not just the students who are interested, but those that have the commitment during high school to complete that credential. And then as far as teacher qualifications, we're continually working with our college partners because that's where the more stringent qualification requirements come from on what those requirements are. There's some that are beyond either the college or us because they need to be in alignment with the Higher Learning Commission that credentials the colleges as well. So looking for creative opportunities when it comes to licensure, when it comes to training requirements, especially NWTC, because that's where most of our courses are through. They've been very accommodating to us as far as late enrollees and getting them into the training they need, or having training that's happening concurrently with the teacher who's teaching a course, so the students that select that course are not negatively harmed because of a teacher transition. But those qualifications and having qualified teachers in front of our kids are one of our biggest asks in order to offer this coursework.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Jeanette.
So the numbers for kids who are economically disadvantaged or students of color, they are not participating in these programs at the same level. Is there any strategy to get these children more involved in these programs, like the certificate programs or the extra credit?
There's a couple different factors at play. So one of them is, like you said, getting them into the programs, helping them understand what we offer based on what their interests are, what their goals are, and what's available to them, not only at the school in their attendance area, but all of our high schools in the district. The other piece of that David alluded to that goes back farther is sometimes our students aren't accessing these programs because they may be needing to make up credits to get to graduation. So it's that downstream work to say, what do we need to do to get our students to be on track earlier in their academic career so that by the time they're sophomores, juniors, seniors, they have more room in their schedule in order to be able to take the courses that are part of these programs. And then one last piece, and it's a small thing, but the impact is big. When it comes to course selection that students have, one strategy we implemented this year is not to say students couldn't take a study hall, but to have study hall not be the default, that every student gets one unless you don't want it. The default is you don't take a study hall unless you do need it. And just changing that perception to what opportunities students have available to them as part of their high school scheduling process.
I'd just like to echo a key point to your question, Ms. Canill, and to Eric's response is that we're simultaneously focused on expanding access and opportunity and also supporting for success. And so those two things go hand in hand. And again, those become with the development of the learner to make sure we're reading on grade level, we're passing all required classes. And so that is a system-wide effort. And at the end of the video, Eric ties those things together nicely in terms of those things that we're doing simultaneously to work throughout the whole system. So more and more of our students, when 9th and 10th grade conversations begin, can absolutely with confidence make a commitment to these type of courses.
So what I hear you saying is you're working on this already before the child is even in high school. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
Any other discussion or questions? I just had one. If you can go to towards the very end of the slide deck, it was kind of about next steps, I think. Can you just explain a little bit more about how I know one of the plans here was to make sure that these were included in the high school's continuous improvement plans. Are you envisioning that being set individually by each school to address their own kind of gaps and needs within that? Or are you thinking more of a blanket goal across all of the high schools that would be reflective of more aligned like explicitly with our strategic plan?
That's a great question, and it's an opportunity to celebrate that as we come to the end of the first school year with our strategic plan. We have built a needs assessment toolkit for each of our schools to look at their specific data relative to every one of the strategic plan goals, to look at to inform their annual goal setting to really be on target or exceeding what our district-wide trajectory is. So we've provided the tools, we've provided the real-time data visualization. We are bringing to them some supports, but also trusting and honoring that they have some answers internally as well. But our schools are now talking about in micro, the same thing that we talk about at this board table each month.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. With that, we will move into the education portion of our meeting, and I will turn the chair over to Alex.
Thank you. We just have one thing on our agenda for tonight. And we'll be calling Director of People Services. Thank you, Katie Selzer. We have, I think, and then we just have Katie Liddycoat as well. And they will introduce proposal for curriculum and instructional materials updates.
Good evening. We're here to present a recommendation for a counselor core curriculum for K-6 that aligns with our standards. So we shared a memo with you and are here to answer any questions you have.
I'll have maybe one question if I don't see any others so far. When I was looking over looks like you were kind of going over the top two. Bring up that chart quick. The biggest difference I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, was kind of the difference in the student characteristics portion between the Leader in Me and the Quaver Ready. And then, so that was the biggest difference that I noticed, and I was just wondering if there was anything else that weighed heavily in your decision, other than what might have been obvious from the data.
Sorry, if we did we introduce Katie Liddycoat, counselor coordinator, and she will answer that question for us.
The student characteristics was one of the larger factors when our team was having discussion about the kind of top two resources that we came down to. And the decision making around that was that the members of our district level team that reviewed the resources felt like there was more diverse representation in terms of racial backgrounds, ability backgrounds, and then in terms of just even the supplemental resources that they felt were available. So comparatively to the kind of second rated curriculum of Leader in Me, they felt like it might be a little bit harder to bridge that for our students. They felt like there was less diversity and less opportunities for students to see themselves in the content as we're delivering it within the classroom. I would say the other kind of big, when you asked if there was a secondary factor, the other really significant one was around the design and usability of the platform. Our counselors felt like the Leader in Me platform was much more difficult to navigate. So that's not necessarily the student side of it, but it did, have to do with how our counselors are able to preview, how they're able to put their lessons together, and then how it looks when they actually step into the classroom to deliver the content. As Quaver Ready seemed much more accessible. It had some additional flexibility in terms of designing lessons so that counselors could use activities or teaching strategies that they felt matched their school and student needs.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions, comments from anybody? All right, then thank you. Now I yield back to you.
Excellent. All right, then we will move into operations, and I believe, Jeanette, I yield the chair to you.
All right, we have discussing the referendum update. So Kale is going to come and give us an update on the 22 and 24 referendum.
Thank you. I do not have much of a visual update for you on the 22 referendum. As we head into this summer, we do have some projects that remain at Sullivan Elementary in our distribution center that are wrapping up. So those are ongoing, and we'll be kicking off as soon as school lets out at Sullivan to wrap up the HVAC renovation there. Next update, I can probably provide a few more details for you on that. But is there any questions on those two projects in particular? Okay, so I'll jump in. I'll try to go fairly quickly through this so I can get to questions. We have 5 active projects, so there's kind of a lot to get through here. So I will run through these. You can stop me at any time if you have questions on a particular project. But just starting as a reminder, we have one completed project, that's Washington Middle School. And then we enter into our first active project, Star Elementary. You can see that that is continued to be on schedule. We've fought through our rain period here, and we will begin site work out there shortly. Actually, currently as we go, but as we come to the end of the school year, we will also be heading into Kennedy Elementary as we begin demolition of that building to complete the site work for Star Elementary. But you can see some progress updates here. That building is sectioned off into, I believe, 5 sections. The last 2 sections, which are classroom wings of the building, are what you kind of see here, are being I would say into the finishes stages of construction. So as we get drywall, ceilings, floors, things like that, progressing all the way to that side of the building. So as you can see here, that building, at one end, you're kind of walking into a finished building. At the other end, you're walking into this, which is nearly getting into those finishes. And you can see here some exterior shots of that building too, with concrete going down and some of that site work around the new building happening here. We have initiated startup on multiple HVAC units for that building. So we'll be on our permanent power and permanent HVAC as we start to condition that building to make sure as we get into occupancy here in the coming months. On the exterior, if you have gotten out to the sites around it, you can see we're nearly finished with the masonry work on the exterior, the brick veneer of that building. The last stages in those classroom wings that I talked about are the remaining brick veneer that needs to be finished, and that is, as you can see, nearly complete. Any questions on STAR? Okay. Doty Elementary, the photos you see here are significant progress on the addition of that building, nearly doubling the size of that building. You can see here that upper left corner is the interior. We're pouring the concrete. We're already putting up walls and things like that. It has windows in that building already. So you can see the notes. I won't go through all those notes on the side there unless you have any questions. We have entered into the building and trying to limit our interruption to the active building, but we have been able to make significant progress to hopefully limit limit the risk of any kind of construction delays as we head into a very speedy renovation of the existing building this summer. So the building has been a great partner in allowing us to get into the building and progress well with that ahead of schedule as well. So we do track to have the addition done in July, and as we start to furnish and close out that building as well as we're renovating the existing building. Just some more additional shots. You can see here some of the rooms in the addition are already in the finishing stages with ceilings and casework and things like that. Site work will also ramp up significantly after school as we finish the playground resurfacing, and then site work with our ring road, our parent loop, and the new playground grass area as well outside. Questions on Doty? Yeah.
So we just had open houses for the schools that are going to be finished at the end of this year. And visiting these schools is obviously, it was a big day and it was an emotional day. But I wondered if, I don't know if you're the right person, how are we going to be reusing some of the furniture from these other schools? Like, can you just talk a little bit about what we have already that can be used in these new spaces?
Yeah, so our plan, anything usable, whether that's furniture, marker boards, things like that, any learning materials certainly will be transferred either to the consolidating schools, and in some of those schools, we are furnishing some new furniture in new areas, but we will reuse furniture to furnish some of our other buildings as well. So not only are these positively impacting the consolidating schools, also some schools in need of some additional furniture replacement and things like that. So we're working through, we had inventoried all of the closing schools and working through with our team to make sure that we best place all that furniture and equipment that we can.
Just to follow up, when Doty's completed and the transition has happened, how many students will be at Doty?
I believe projections right now are around that 530 mark. Yeah. Oh, jumping back. So Chapel is a little more unique than I would say the Doty. Their additions are a little bit more parsed around the building. But 3 of those additions are out of the grounds, and one of them actually is wrapping up finishes now. But as you can see here, this is the largest next to the gym and community room, already having floors and ceilings and walls going in. Things are progressing well there as well. So all 3 projects that you've seen so far are on schedule. We've had a little more, I would say, I don't want to make any more difficult than others, but Chapel has been a difficult site with some of our water issues, but they've navigated that really well, and they're very happy of where they are at with progress. As you can see here, here's the 4K edition for that building. They've completed most of the veneer on that building as well and started the site work around that. They've been able to navigate a playground for the school during the year. And same with this staff, has been great at allowing the contractors to be in the active building as well, with as minimal disruption as they can, knowing that, again, we're going to have a tight schedule to renovate this summer. So the staff has been great. Nexus has been great, making sure we stay on track and can get ahead as much as possible for our renovation. One of the newer projects that started is at Beaumont. So our expansion there has started breaking ground. We were able to modify that plan a little bit because of the partnership with the city and our land exchanges. So as you'll probably notice, some of our building and land is actually into what formerly was the city of Green Bay land. So that was very helpful in the planning of this project. But you can see here we've started demo and breaking ground, so early stages at Beaumont. So not a much of an update for you on schedule-wise with that project. Just some additional footing and underground utility work at Beaumont. And then the final project we have that is active is our Lincoln Elementary addition. So this project, as you can see here, is coming out of the ground as well. We're getting footings poured, and you'll be, sorry, can't read from here. I should wear my glasses. Working on our utility tie-ins currently. So I know that was, again, this is a tight turnaround. We plan to have this addition built and turned over to the building before the start of the school year, as well as the renovations within that building to accept the additional kids from the consolidation. Some additional photos of the footings as we progress here. So any questions on the progress and the schedule of our 5 active projects? Yes.
You know, I love this stuff, right? Can you remind people what we're building at Lincoln? The thing is it's been a long time since we made the initial decisions about what we were going to do. So reminding people kind of what's happening at these schools, and it might be helpful for people who are watching this meeting.
So Lincoln was a part of this referendum as part of the consolidations, and that dates back actually to that first set of consolidations with Tank Elementary, how we had transitioned students throughout the district. So they are accepting additional kids. So what is being done there is some additional classroom space. We have strategically designed that space to, if we have the opportunity in the future to function as a community space, as similar to we've provided at other schools. So we just want to be cognizant of that that student population to make sure we had enough space during the time of that consolidation, and being that it tracked back to the tank closure as well. So that currently is an expansion of 2 classrooms. And then we're also right-sizing our playground to accept the additional students, which, if you're familiar with the Lincoln site and the community, it is a tight site. The city has allowed us to do some things with that site to make that just a better school site for the playground area as well. Yep. And then just two brief updates on the total progress. So as you can see, the majority of our, as planned, a majority of our referendum has been designed. So next projects coming up, we have our mostly our secure entrances after we've completed these consolidation projects. So that's why you see that smaller section there. These are the bulk of our projects were these consolidations, additions, and new school. And then here you can see budget update. This will obviously quickly rise as we meet our designed work, as we wrap up, as we're turning over many of these projects this fall. So I would say that the majority of our work is happening this summer. It has been ongoing throughout the winter, but this continues to track well for us. As far as contingency and inflation, as I spoke about, as we mentioned, the Edison project, because we've been so aggressive with our schedule, we've been able to avoid any kind of significant inflationary costs, which as we are hoping it doesn't impact future bidding, it doesn't look as, I would say, as good as it had in the past.
Sorry, I have a lot of questions. I had someone ask me about a secure entrance at Southwest. When might that be coming?
We're working through that schedule right now. Because we were able to get some more projects scheduled earlier, we're kind of shuffling and trying to get as many as we can, but we have obviously 5 active projects, so we want to be cognizant of that. But we're beginning design on next phase of projects this summer.
The building's secure though. The building's secure.
Forgive me, I know there's security at Southwest. When I think about this building project, though, I know that the talk is to move the front office to the front entryway. And forgive me, Vicki, I know there is a lot of security there. The other question I had was, it's not really a question, but can you talk a little bit about how the deal we made with the city with regard to land swaps? Again, this is something we talked about months and months ago, but just how that has been, how that has affected decisions, and how that has benefited our district and the city.
It certainly made some of the planning easier. Chapel and Beaumont being 2 obvious answers for us. Being able to come to a great agreement that was beneficial to both of us. Being able to swap land instead of dollars, I think it was beneficial to the taxpayers, as we're not exchanging dollars and or selling to other parties for. It's difficult to sell schools as well, so the land swaps, I think, were advantageous to us that way. So certainly Chapel was critical, and Beaumont, and then the other land swaps as well, just cleaning up years of transitions in property that were difficult for us to manage, whether we're on the border of taking care of city property or vice versa, the city encroaching on district property. Our playgrounds, that's a good example. We've added playgrounds that were formerly on city land onto our property, which we maintain those. We were maintaining those playgrounds anyways. Now we're the owners of those, and we're able to navigate that a little easier moving forward. Last thing I'll mention is Red Smith bid package is complete for the board members that haven't been as close to this in the past. There are new members. Red Smith's the main project with that is an auditorium addition and a secure entrance. That bid package has been designed and is going out to bid this summer. So we will potentially have overlap of 6 active projects. So I shouldn't sell ourselves short on that.
Okay, thank you, Cale. Anybody have any other questions for Cale? All right, then I'll turn over to you, Samantha.
Thank you. Next up, we will move into our policy and governance section, and I will turn the chair over to Andrew for that.
Okay, thank you. We have two items. First one is revisions to Board of Education Policy 345.62 graduation ceremony. Do you have any board member questions? Sam?
This is just in response to this change in the state law, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. Just for those listening, this is to allow all of any of our Indigenous or Native American students to wear their traditional tribal regalia at graduation ceremonies. So I think this is great that we're getting on board with adjusting our policy to reflect the new law.
And we have had Indigenous students wear these things already, and this is just putting it officially in the books because the state did too. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Any further questions? All right. We have revisions to Board of Education Policy 343.3 independent study. And this is regarding possibly earning a letter grade on an independent study in certain circumstances. Any questions? Okay, and that would be it for policy then. Thank you.
All right. We have reached the end of our agenda. Just for those listening at home, there is an updated board meeting schedule attached in the information for the board meeting. If you're looking forward to seeing our future meetings on there, otherwise I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
You have been watching the Green Bay Area Public School District's Board of Education meeting. Please visit the school district's website, www.gbaps.org, for more information on the district and future meeting dates. If you cannot fully access the information on this video, please let us know the accessibility issue you are having by calling 920-448-2025 or by email at communications@gbaps.org. We will try to provide the information to you in an alternative format and/or make the necessary improvements to make the information accessible.